What is going on, everyone? I'm Justin.
And I'm Myron with a guest host, co-host Yee.
Yep. And welcome to another edition of the Just My Luck podcast. So we have a great topic today that man, me and Myron talked about even a little bit yesterday, man. We were going to talk about we're going to be talking about, career skills, career path, whatever have you. Um this is a topic that I am constantly thinking about, um, constantly evolving in and learning and growing when it comes to career. But I guess I'll start off talking about just my career path, and I'm going to include, for the purposes of keeping things holistic, I'm going to talk about professionally, within the 9 to 5 corporate structure and outside of it, because I've had endeavors in both. So my my entry into the workforce was at about 16. My first job was working at a department store. I don't think there's many of them left. They're called Fred's department store. And I worked there. It was my first job. I obviously didn't have many soft skills at 16 for work. But my mom was very helpful in providing me with tips and stuff. She said, "Hey, dress up for the interview." And I remember going up to pick up my application because they had just built the Freds and no one else was dressed up. I was the only one that was dressed up in the building. And so that helped me get a leg up when it was time to apply, because they looked at me and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're really well dressed. I definitely remember you." So that was my first kind of entry into the workforce. And then over the years, I had various other jobs. I went to college. I worked at American Eagle for a few months as a senior in high school. I then went to college. When I got out of college, my first job outside of college was in Memphis. I worked for an agency that helped emotionally disturbed youth. I did various jobs there, but when it comes to my career path, it was something that my wife helped me to get, and it wasn't my it wasn't it was a way to earn money. It wasn't my passion. It was just something for me to make sure I was working and getting some experience in the workforce. Um, I did that for 2 years, and I worked various positions there. From a counselor, I was a youth counselor, not in a mental health sense totally, but more so in just spending time with the youth and getting to know them, building rapport, watching out for their safety. And that was my first kind of delve into some of the things that have been able to help shape me, not only professionally but personally. Like I really safety focused overall when it comes to my kids. I'm able to watch them better. I have a clearer picture of the world because of the place that I worked, because I had access to the files of these kids and I could see what happened to them. And I was like, "Oh, there's people in this world that they don't care." So it really kind of opened my eyes there. I was a teacher assistant. I was a member of crisis team, did a lot of conflict resolution and conflict prevention. I was a supervisor. I was, and then got to, uh, we moved. And at that point, there had a 7 month gap in employment. Some things happened, not to get into specifics because I don't want to take up too much time, but some things happened to where I had something lined up, it fell through. And so I didn't have employment for about 7 months, and that was definitely a rough time. And then after that, my I became employed as a job coach at an agency, yeah, out in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I did that for 5 years. I was a case manager. I taught workshops, like free classes on computer skills, networking, like meeting new people, um, how to do resumes, job interview skills, things like that, and managed a caseload of youth, adults, so on and so forth. And then after that, man, I was able to get a position in something. I started to figure out what I wanted to do career wise a little more, and was able to get a position in that starting in December of 2019. And that's when I became a full time corporate trainer. Um, and that's what I do now. I've been in the learning and development space since then, full time. And yeah, I guess the rest is history, so to speak. Obviously, there were some miniature journeys within each of those roles, and I'll dive into a little bit of that. Again, I know, I know Myron has his own experiences and things, and we have our time is limited here, but I promise you, there are some nuggets you all going to get out of this. After outside of my 9 to 5 job, I was in a couple of multi-level marketing companies, so I did do direct sales on the side. I've started a speaking business before. I have started a coaching business before, or started as a coach, right? I always say speaking business and coaching business. And I guess that's more so optimism out of me. Realistically, I began coaching and I began speaking. And I ended up getting paid for both a little bit. Got some traction with that. Really learned a lot of skills along the way doing these entrepreneurial endeavors to now where and throughout the years, I can honestly say, even though there are some specifics that we're going to get into today, at least on my end, as far as career and purpose and figuring out, where do I want to go in this situation? What are some of the steps I need to take? I can truly say that it all it all points somewhere. So if we sit back and kind of look back at our journey and see what made us happy, or as Steve Jobs said, what makes your heart sing, that was that's when I started to discover, okay, I'm gifted in things, I'm good at things, and then there are things that I'm willing to do and love to do that I could do all the time. So um, I think I've finally am narrow. I'm very close to landing this plane, you all, when it comes to my own personal career. I know what I want to do for my 9 to 5. I'm very close to landing the plane on what I plan to do for my own personal fulfillment.
Mhm.
Um, I I'm so close. I think I have it. It's just I'm going to continue to pray, continue to get clarity, but I really think I found my one of my things, and it's something I've been doing a long time anyway. So I have experience in it, but more to come on that as it progresses. Um, I'm going to pass it over to Myron. Myron, talk about your career path and some of the your journey as far as work, inside and outside of the 9 to 5 structure.
Mhm. Well, for me, I started off really my first job was working at the first job I ever had. I was working. Uh, we had just I had just got this. I just either went to high school or middle school or something like that, and I was working during the summer, putting up some of the information that some of the playground equipment that me and some of my classmates had raised money and did different stuff for that we weren't going to get to play with.
I
So
love it.
yeah, so that was part of my job, my first job. Um, my second job, I ended up working at Super Value, kind of because my cousin Cedric uh, did it. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, man, I want to be like my cousin Cedric. Work at Super Value. So I
Mm-hmm.
work. There's a local uh, grocery store chain. It's a few of them around the South, um, and some of them are named IGAs or something like that. So they're kind of they sell some of their products and stuff like that. So um, yeah, so IGA, yeah, I worked there, and then I worked. I think the first job I had when I went to college, I worked on the reference center at Mississippi State when we were there. So I worked at the reference center there. Ended up actually losing that job. I ended up getting fired. uh, without being even told. uh,
Wow.
yeah, one of my mentors, like I just came into work. She's like, you don't have to come back.
Why?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Why?
I showed up late and doing different things like that. Wasn't being mature like I needed to be.
Oh, okay. I see. I see.
So, she just let me go. The second job I had some mentors and at the it was the counseling center at Mississippi State, and I had that job for a long time. Um, After I graduated, I was trying to figure out kind of like what to do. Did I want to go to grad school? Which I did, but I ended up going back home and working at my old elementary school for about 9 months.
Hmm.
I stayed at my grandmother's house and kind of just tried to figure it out. And of course, I was, I recently had gotten married shortly after. No, I hadn't gotten married after graduating from college. I met my soon-to-be wife. Uh, so around the early point in that time, and yeah, I ended up going to Southern Placement Exchange, and one of my mentors as well told me about the Southern Placement Exchange, which is a uh, place for just like a conference for people who are doing job searching in like student affairs based fields, on colleges, or people who are looking for graduate assistantships as well. It just kind of depends on the situation, but that was my first opportunity to get into grad school um, at UCA. Worked there, and I've worked at a few different places. Um, up until coming back at UCA as an assistant director. Um, I think the biggest thing for me, just to not kind of harp on just every single step of where I've been, um, really, I keep everywhere that I've been, I have a connection. Everywhere, multiple. I make it a point to connect and not to ever burn any bridges at any place that I've ever been. So if I need any type of favors, or if I need to contact somebody, or if somebody needs to contact me, I think it's reciprocal. It needs to be something to where it's not just a transactional thing where they get something, where you build a connection, you get something. I think that you need to be able to be reliable as well, and I feel like that's something that I've continued to make sure that I do in terms of everything where I've been. So that's been an important thing. That's been an important thing for me. Um,
That's smart.
I strongly encourage everybody who's listening to do the same. Continue to build connections where you are, even if it's not necessarily where you want to be at the current moment. You just never know. Um, I never would have imagined coming back in the role in which one of my mentors who's my supervisor now, who was my supervisor when I was in grad school. Never would have thought I'd come back full circle and be back at the place and be at the role that he originally was,
Hmm.
um, impacting my life and being able to now go back and impact other people. In terms of my career path, honestly, I'm still really trying to figure out a lot of things in terms of where I specifically want to go. And I think another thing I would say for sure is if you have things that you want to try or things that you want to do, especially when you're younger, I definitely suggest to go out and do those things, or at least experiment and see if you're really interested in that thing. Um, I think the fear with a lot of African American people is we don't feel like we have a whole lot of time to waste. First off, we don't a lot of times we're not coming from highly social economic, high social economic status. A lot of times our families are investing a lot in us. I could say from our generations. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts where like my grandparents didn't end up getting their high school diplomas. But constant progression as you move further, generation to generation to generation. But it's still a lot of investing, still a lot of, and the investment is not necessarily financial. The investment is a lot of time. So for me, it's more so of an expectation of like, okay, anything that I do, I can't fail, you know. So a lot of times for me, I didn't really go in, I didn't try things because of fear of letting someone down or fear of not living up to the expectation that I feel like I could have. So um I would say, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of dreams or a lot of, things I, wish I would have at least tried to do. Um, and I didn't. And I think some of those things you'll have to look in the mirror and kind of grieve that death if you're not careful. I've heard people say, it's about like in the graveyard, you got 2 dates, got the birth date and the end date, but that line in between is really the most important dates or set series of dates, because that's gonna that line it's important because that's what you've done during the time in between those dates. Um, that's kind of what my thoughts are in terms of this. Like my career is what I could say. I don't want to go into harping into a whole lot of different things in terms of like the whole story, but there's other things, but yeah, I think for general gist, that's where my career is going, where it's been.
Yep. And now he's the director of Planet Earth. So as the director of Planet Earth, he has the power to contact Elon Musk,
Oh
get his
God.
ship prepared, fly
Oh,
up to space. No, you all, yeah, that's good. Make sure to connect with people and talking about taking time, as somebody younger during younger years to make sure and try different things that you want to try. Um, so me and you, Myron, talked about something yesterday that I want to bring to the podcast.
okay.
I told you I had a 7 month gap in employment. I told Myron that yesterday. He was like, "Well, how was that? What'd you do?" Because I told him that I did a certain process to move my career forward. So during that 7 month gap in employment, one of the biggest things I did was the same thing that Myron said he did, is build connections. Now, I wasn't building connections for a job search. I was building connections for multi-level marketing, which is basically like you get people to sign up for a product or a service, and then they basically you get paid for having people sign up, right? So it's direct sales if I had to like break it down to even simpler terms. But regardless, I didn't have any steady income coming in. So since I was meeting new people, I decided to also use that as an opportunity to just see who could help me with any jobs. Um, it was definitely more one-sided, more on a selfish basis because I was like, okay, how can this person help me at the time? And so I was meeting people back then, and I was just asking, hey, I'm looking for work. You have anything? And I met a few people. I met some of my fraternity brothers, and they were able to give me some temporary assignments, um, at like factories and stuff, for a bit, and then I was also able to finally meet this guy who had just gotten out of prison, and he said, "Hey man, you need to go down to this organization downtown in Chattanooga, where I lived, and they have free classes for people who just got out of prison. It teaches them how to network, how to apply for jobs, like job search skills, and they feed you too, and it's free. Did I mention? And I said, well, I didn't just get out of prison or anything. And so I was like, is it just for people who just got out of prison? He was like, no, not really. Like anyone can go. So I signed up. I signed up and I went. It was a 3 day class, I think. It was like 9 to uh, 3 for 3 days during the week. I mean, I didn't have a job, so I didn't have nowhere to go. So I went to the class, and man, one of the coolest things was they really taught us some great skills. I met some people that became my mentors later in life, some real heavy hitters in Chattanooga. And I got a case manager at the end of the class, and I showed her my resume, and she's like, you have some pretty good experience. You seem pretty well spoken. You probably do well with such and such. And she was showing me some different kind of coordinator, community engagement type jobs, and trying to use her connections to get me employed there. And finally, she was like, wait a second. Actually, you know what? My dad, this case manager, her father was actually the director over the place where I ended up becoming employed. So she said, let me just ask him. And I'll never forget. I she called me and said, hey, can you go just meet them? Like an interview, but it's not really an interview because you're pretty much going to get the job. I said, yeah. So I went, met the guy, started the next day. Started the next day. And I did that for 5 years.
Mm.
Became a very valuable asset to that place, according to them, not just me, according to them. So, but yeah, the power in building connections, you all, I really want to talk about that when it comes to the career path because it's not, there's always some type of opportunity at our fingertips. The thing is, are we willing to go do that opportunity uh, at that time? That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing, right? I mean, because if we don't have a job, for example, like I did, I could have worked anywhere. I could have gone and worked at Dollar General. I could have gone and worked somewhere just to get some type of employment. So there were opportunities, but so there are always opportunities. But the key is, do you want them? And then if you want to look at what kind of opportunities you can get offered, it's all about going to be all about your connection. Sure, you want to apply for jobs, you want to try to go for things yourself, but if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you need other people. We go together. So meeting other people, connecting with other people is key. Now I want to talk to people specifically, and it's going to piggyback off what Myron said. I really want to harp in on this connecting with people because there are many of you who might watch this podcast and say, well, I'm quiet, man. I don't like going out and meeting new people. I don't like all that networking and stuff like that. Well, me too. I mean, I'm not a gregarious life of the party networker either, right? But I want to talk to you all who are like me, who are introverts, who say to yourself, "Well, I'm not really like a talker and things like that." Me neither. So let me explain. Let me explain. When you're the networking events that you go to, or if someone says go out and build connections, just network with people, right? You've probably heard that term.
Mhm.
That concept is made for people who are naturally extroverted. When you think of it, right? You go out and just meet a bunch of people, right? Get to know them, build a quick connection, and go. Right? It's rarely ever addressed in the sense of what should an extroverted, more quiet person do. So let me tell you, and I know because this is what I did. Right? I want you to throw that concept out the window, and I want you to instead think your goal of any networking that you do is going to be to meet one person, not two. I don't want you to go meet three. I don't want you to meet 20. Nope. I mean, you can be cordial to people. They come up and introduce themselves, but your goal should be to meet one person per networking opportunity that you get
Mhm.
and build a connection with that person. Now let's talk about how you build a connection with a person. Y'all can probably hear the corporate trainer, the teacher, and me coming out. Let's talk about how
Mhm.
you build a connection with a person specifically. Let's get specific because we introverts need this. We need to know that process. We can't just be like, just do it. Let me tell you. Okay. Form. I want you to remember this. We're in class now. I'm teaching now. Form. I want you to write that down. Form. 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 Okay? Form. First one, F is for family. One of the biggest things you can ask someone about is their family first, right? Or where they're from. It can be interchangeable. Now, all of these things, the main thing that's about is asking questions. You don't have to talk as much as you think. Like, I don't like to talk. You don't have to talk to network, because the person who's you're going to build a connection with, they're going to connect with you because not just because of what you have in common, but they feel like they can talk to you and you actually listen to them, which
Mm.
guess what? We're good at not talking and listening a little better, right? That's a strength that introverts have a little more of. So you want to ask questions. Where are you from? Such and such. Okay. You have family there? Yeah, I have three brothers, two sisters. You want to ask questions and you want to ask as many open-ended questions as possible, because that allows for them to talk the most available time, right? So that just means asking stuff like, um, you know, um, what are some of the things you like to do with your siblings, and what are some of the things you enjoy doing? Those are open-ended. They're not yes or no, right? So you want to ask questions like that. So F is family or where you're from. O is for occupation, which is what do you do? What do you do for work? Right? So you want to ask about their job. Ask them questions. What made them get into it? What do they enjoy about it? What does their day to day look like? And just listen. Just listen. Okay? Just listen. R is for recreation. Recreation is, what do they like to do for fun? This this question gets is probably one of the biggest connectors, ways you can connect with people, because people love talking about what they do for fun. They already like it. And if you ask them questions about it, they're excited because, oh, someone wants to hear a little more about my fishing. I knew a guy, he enjoyed bass tournament fishing. And I asked him, he could talk for hours about it. I listened to him talk about it for at least an hour before. Seriously. I know a guy like baseball. These are all things that they like to do for recreation, right? So recreation is the R. Definitely want to ask about that. And then M is message. You know, what do you stand for? What are you about? You don't have to ask it like that, right? I mean, you can ask it in a more, friendly way. But what what kind of things are you into? What's some things that's important to you? When as far as society and what thing was happening today, you don't have to get political or anything. Just what's their main thing that they stand for. M is for message. What's their main message that they want to get across to people? What do they stand for? So form. Those four letters, if you can just do that, you're going to connect with pretty much anyone. All you got to do is ask questions and listen, essentially. You can talk a little bit about yourself, obviously, but most people don't care, to be honest. They don't. Most people glad if your goal is to go and talk more than the other person, talk about your problems, most people don't care, and most of them are glad it's you, better you than them, right? I mean, it's just because we're humans. So, and it makes sense. People would want they wouldn't want to have your same problems. They have their own problems. So, our goal here, for my introverted people, go out with a goal of networking with one person, connect with them, and don't worry about anything else. You can leave. I've left events. I met one person and got their number, connected with them, and been done. I've left. People call, where you at? I'm like, I left, right? But it's been a game changer because I've been able to connect with people, build dozens and dozens of connections. I don't need 1,000 connect with 1,000,000 people, right? Just connect with who I need to connect with, right? As you get better and more comfortable with that, maybe you can do two, right? But you don't have to go overboard. One, maybe two at most. So build those connections, and that's what saved me as far as getting employment again. And so to to kind of bring it back here, and then I'm gonna pass it back to Myron to kind of close this out with the last little bit. But to bring us back here, um, another thing that you want to do that I've been able to it took me years to do, and I'm not done by any means, but I can definitely help anyone else who's seeking to do this, is find out your purpose, for lack of a better term. And I don't mean in the cliche way like find what you were born to do, but seriously, you want to find you want to find the intersection of a few different things. What are you gifted at? Like what do you do naturally better than other people, that it comes easy to you, but it's hard for them, right? It doesn't come naturally to them, but you do it easily. You're like, I've always done this. Me, I've always been encouraging and positive, easy. I've always been a pretty overall like chill, calm person, easy. I don't even have to do this. I mean, I don't have to try to be like that. I've been like that for a long time. It comes easily to me, right? So maybe you're good with money. Maybe you're good with coaching people. I don't know, whatever it might be. So figure that out. What are you gifted at, right? What do people need? What do people need? What is um what are you good at? So what have you been doing the last 10 years? Like what are you good at? Actually, like me, I've been facilitating and teaching learning and development for the last 10 years. Easy. I've been doing that. I'm very good when it comes to facilitating, teaching. Um, I've been doing it, man. Free workshops. I do it full time now. I've done it on the side. I've spoken and taught at conferences before. I'm telling you, I've done it a lot. Very competent at that, right? And then the last one is, man, what do you personally love? What do you just enjoy? And I remember I took a course and he called it Eulerian Destiny, based on another concept, but it was 4 questions. One of the questions was, what can you talk about on a Saturday night for hours without even thinking? Time flies by. You can sit with your friends, talk about it for hours. A couple of things that I can talk about for hours are our past and how they affect us and how our stories have brought us to where we are today. I could talk about video games for hours. I could talk about movies, the arts, things like that. That stuff I love, right? So when you look at how you can incorporate those things, what people need, what you're good at, what you're gifted in, and what you can talk about for hours, those types of things, if you can incorporate those and find out where those intersect, you're going to find something that not only can you do without thinking too much about it, but you're going to end up making money from it because people need it, right? So definitely take some time and figure that out. You're going to have to probably write it down. No, the dullest pencil is better than the sharpest mind. Don't just keep it in your head, write it down. And yeah, those are my couple of things. So make sure and connect and then find out what your purpose is. Not in the cliche sense, but write it down and figure out those things that I talked about. All right, Myron, I'm passing it back to you, man. Anything else you want to close us out with? Parting advice? I mean, you gave us some great stuff with the connections and things like that. Any advice for anything else as far as career path?
You didn't preach, preacher. I mean, shoot, form. You know what I'm saying? Giving all
Oh
these.
yeah, I went into teacher mode. The thing.
I think that a lot of the things you said, I think that that's really what it boils down to in terms of building comfortability. I think anybody, whether they're introvert or extrovert, could use that same method or that
True.
same mentality in terms of connecting with people. Because I wouldn't consider myself an extrovert. I probably am. I think as I've gotten older, I'm probably a introvert masquerading as an extrovert. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, centrovert. Most people are. They're
mhm.
like kind of half and half, so to speak. They lean more toward one side. There's
Yeah,
not many like straight up introverts or straight up extroverts. Most
yeah.
people are kind of towards the middle. So it
And
makes sense.
I think as you get older, you value your time alone even more. You know what I'm saying? Because especially when you get family and kids and all of that stuff involved, it becomes more challenging to get that time to yourself.
Yep.
She looking at me like, "What you looking at, buddy?"
Like, you talking about me?
Yeah, right. That's exactly how she's looking. But I mean, you know, that those things become important, and a lot of times when you're going after career stuff or anything like that, a lot of times, I think, like I said before, I was doing like a barbershop talk on campus with a group of students, African American young men. We just talking about, we just kind of kicking and just kind of talking about different topics and everything. And probably one of the biggest things that I told them, because I think a lot of young men, and I could just think back to my time when I was in college, a lot of people's focus on the wrong thing, especially African American. Like, we focused on joining organizations, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think there's also needs to be a timing in those things, um, you know, focused on women, um, feeding into desires versus using logic, you know, uh, developing, discipline and routine. Um, and the main thing we harped on was just women. I was like, bro, like, the biggest thing y'all need to grow and understand is that leave these women alone and focus your time and your attention on being the best version of yourself that you can be, so that when she comes in, she enhances what you have. I think building something together is always great, but I think um, when you come in a relationship, it's good that you're able to still be an individual and not be dependent on anybody. So I think that is um, probably the most key aspect, I would say, especially for young men. Man. I think women, same thing. Both genders, both sexes need to sit back and really, or whatever spectrum, focus before getting in any type of relationship, whatever uh, your sexual orientation, whatever. Focus on you, so that you can be the best version of you when you incorporate yourself into a relationship. And I know they don't have a whole lot to do with career and stuff like that.
It does.
Yeah, yeah.
It has a lot to do with career, actually.
But I think in order for you to prioritize in the areas that you need to, you know, I remember Kobe Bryant specifically kind of talking about, like, when he was young in the league, right? When he had first got drafted, he was talking about being young and not being able to participate in some of the different activities that some of his other teammates were able to. And he was like, I'm able to stay in the gym all the time and do a bunch of different work on different things. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I'm 18. I don't have any kids.
Mhm.
I don't have any responsibilities. My goal every day is to get up and be the best basketball player I can be. And he spent hours and hours, multiple times a day, getting better at being a basketball player. Where other people couldn't really spend that time because they had other vices, other things that they were doing, families, um, all those things. So, um, yeah, man, just my biggest thing, just focus on being the best version of you.
That's good, man. I appreciate your wisdom as usual, as you're being the parent of the year. Yeah. Yeah, I know you.
What you
I
think?
know.
What you
She
think?
shrugged her shoulders like the Kanye shrug.
What you think? You hit me?
Like, let's close this out.
You
Like, let's
ready to
close this
go
out.
bye-bye? You gonna tell me bye-bye?
You gonna tell the people bye? Okay, we'll close it out, Yee. So y'all, I'm Justin.
Hey!
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. There we go.
We
All
going
right,
back
y'all.
to Cancun? Yeah. Yeah, and I'm married.
Yep. And then Yee, as Yee says,
Yeah.
guy has a thumb out right there, and the fingers like this.
Just My Luck podcast featuring Yee.
Yep. It's been another edition of the Just My Luck podcast. Y'all have a great one. Peace.
Peace.